Hello there, and welcome back to the Smell of Logic channel. I am Ramona, and today's Reddit stories are going to be a continuation of the creepy backwoods stories. True, hopefully they're all true. If not, they're good stories anyway, right? So, here we go. Ready? Part 2. Story number 1. I live in western Montana, and about 6 years ago, I had the strangest experience. I was huckleberry picking with my dad and decided to walk up the trail with my .22 rifle to look for grouse. As I was walking, I heard the lightest footsteps coming from above me. The trail was on an incline, and I assumed it was a deer, until I noticed the steps stopped everywhere I did, and they were way too quiet for a deer. So I decided to look above me, and behind a bush was a person-type thing. I saw the creature's shoulder, nipple, arm, and collarbone. It was hairless and a dark tan color. It was a very, very small creature, and the weirdest part to me was seeing its nipple. I've heard stories of little people that live in the woods, but you never know. It could have been a Laotian person picking along with us and trying to be discreet, but why were they not wearing a shirt and following alongside me on this trail? I ran for it after that encounter and cried in front of my dad because it was scary as hell. I'm a pretty outdoorsy person, and to this day, this is still the weirdest experience for me in the woods. I've seen orbs in the tree lines and had Bigfoot-like encounters. This still trumps it for me. Story 2. Not backwoods really. I saw this around 30 to 40 feet off of a hiking trail through a forested area when the entrance to the trail started in a residential neighborhood. The entrance was probably half a kilometer or so from where I saw him. I was on a jog and had started from a different trail entrance and was planning to exit the trail at this other entrance. I had reached a stretch of trail that was pretty steep and rocky, so I started walking down, singing out loud to myself, and I saw something move from the corner. When I looked over, it took me a good 10 seconds to make out what I was seeing. It was a man with shoulder-length hair, completely naked, facing me and staring at me. Mind you, it was -5 degrees outside. For my American friend, Celsius, sorry. For my American friends, that's 23 degrees Fahrenheit. I saw his dong and everything. Then I realized what I was seeing. I was pretty alarmed, to say the least. For context, I'm a woman, and I was about 21 years old at the time. I was just walking down the slope as quickly as I could, and when I ran off to the trail without looking behind me. Once I was out of the trail, I thought about it, and my alarm changed to concern because, well, it was pretty damn cold out there, and the sky was just chilling in the forest, butt-ass naked, and it was starting to get dark. I started to wonder if maybe he was having some sort of mental health crisis, and I ended up calling the police non-emergency line to ask them if they could perform a wellness check. The police eventually called me back a couple of hours or so after I called them because they couldn't find anyone up there. We wanted to make sure they were checking the right spot, and when they described it, it was 100% the right spot. Never found out who he was or why he was up there. Still wonder about it sometimes. Not sure if he was a wild man. I suppose it's possible because I know some of the homeless people in that town would set up camp in the bush and in the warmer months. He certainly creeped me out, though. Story 3. Not exactly backwoods, but on an empty rural stretch of road in Ohio with nothing around for about 40 miles or so. On our left side was the Erie Canal, and about half a mile tucked into the forest from the road, and nothing else but woods for a while otherwise. It was raining hard and quite chilly. About halfway between the towns, there was a man on the canal side standing beside the road, poised like he was about to just step out in front of our truck. He had on a red flannel torn work pants. Red flannel and torn work pants. I thought he was about to step in front of us, and I got a good look as we passed him. And the entire left side of his face and body looked mangled and bloody like ground meat. When I looked back, he just utterly vanished. I was freaked out because I asked my mom if she had seen him too, and she had. There was nothing else around, no vehicles, nothing on the road itself. There was no sensible place nearby he could have come from. He also didn't look alarmed or anything, which was super strange. He didn't seem to be asking for help. He just looked blankly at the truck as we passed. I've since tried to find a record of an accident or something there, but nothing has come up. When I've posted about it before, people said it sounds like that kind of damage one might get from a motorcycle wreck, and my mother agrees that was probably as she was a biker herself. It remains a mystery that I'll never forget. Story 4. Around 1984, I was a very young adult female forester working in the National Forest in the east of Texas. One day, while wearing my green uniform, I was checking out an old logging road near a property line that had several residential residences on the adjacent private land. And down the road ahead of me, I heard music playing. Around the curve comes a young adult male carrying a large boombox on his shoulder. The music was a currently popular song by Anne Murray. I stopped to say hello to the fellow and immediately got a slight off vibe about him. Not mean or evil, just like it was slightly mentally challenged. We spoke for a couple of minutes, him asking me what I was doing, not in a challenging way, more like just conversational. I was reasonably comfortable with the situation until he said, you look a lot like Anne Murray. I didn't look like her, really, but my hairstyle was a little like hers at the time. My hackles stood up a little, and I thanked him and said I considered that to be a great compliment. He continued, You really, really look a lot like Anne Murray. I thanked him again and said I really had to go, and gave up on the day's work and booted it back to my truck ASAP. This was right after U.S. biathlete Carrie Swenson was kidnapped in Montana by a couple of wannabe mountain men, consisting of a father and adult son, to be the son's wife. My appetite for weirdos in the woods was low. Story 5. When I was around 7 or 8 years old, this was in 1995-ish, I lived a bit north of Spokane, Washington, close to a town called Colbert. It was fairly rural and heavy and very forested. I remember the neighborhood I lived in was still being developed. There were a lot of trees, lots of dirt, lots of empty lots yet to be built on. My backyard butted up to a large open field with very tall power lines running as far as the eye could see. On the other side of the field was a huge forest of pine trees. My siblings and I would always go and ride bikes and play back there. Late one fall evening, after my family had eaten dinner, I remember my mom had noticed a fire burning out across the field near the tree line of the forest. She called 911 to report the fire. I remember her getting off the phone and telling us that they said, Oh, it's probably just someone having a bonfire to burn their leaves. Lots of people do that this time of year. Anyway, we didn't think much of it after that. A few days later, my sister and I went back up there to go play, and we found a completely burned out car and a bunch of random junk scattered around the immediate vicinity. Definitely a weird thing to encounter at that age. I also used to ride my bike to school. My elementary school was close enough that I could ride there for about 10 or 20 minutes, or 15 to 20 minutes. Again, my neighborhood was essentially surrounded by pine forest, and we had learned a pretty fun and fast route through the forest, almost directly from my neighborhood to the school. One day, on my way home from school, I decided to take a trail off my normal route. Don't remember the exact reason. Maybe I was just exploring, or maybe I was trying to find a shortcut or something. I ended up stumbling upon what appeared to be a makeshift camp of some sort. I just remember seeing a bunch of beer bottles everywhere, and bullet casings and weird cooking equipment. Probably meth, or maybe moonshine, looking back on it now. And it looked as if someone had been there very recently, like maybe saw me approaching on my bike, and scrambled out of there for some reason. Oh, for some reason I just got really bad vibes and didn't hang around there for too long. I remember pedaling out of there as fast as I could. Once I get to the forest, I am turning back into the main road outside of my neighborhood. I could see a white Chevy van turn out of one of the dirt roads in from the forest. It was maybe 100 or 150 feet or yards behind me. I hear it accelerating like a lot, and I'm looking back, thinking to myself, this van is accelerating at me. We were heading in the same direction at that point. I start pedaling again as fast as I can. My adrenaline is spiking at this point. This is all happening in a matter of maybe 20 to 30 minutes or seconds. I hear the van at this point is so close to me. I end up checking the curb and go flying off my bike literally over the entire sidewalk, and the land and grass pretty much unscathed, albeit extremely shaken up. I see the van blast past as I'm still rolling. I get up, run over to my bike, which luckily is also fine, and quickly dip into my neighborhood and ride home, keeping an eye out for the van. I made it home and never saw the van again. I just remember thinking to myself that the van, the person or persons whose camp I stumbled across was the same across in the woods. Needless to say, I never went off my normal route to school ever again. Still to this day, I wonder about who was driving that van and whether or not they were actually trying to hit me or just run me off the road and scare me. I moved away from the Spokane area in 1997, and it was sure one of the weirdest places I've ever lived in. Story 6. I was a female fly fisher woman alone in an isolated northern California river when my male companions were out of sight, backcast, and snagged a scary guy that I don't know was behind me right between the eyes. If anything, said the former felon, now homeless man in the woods, it was him. Huge guy, tatted up and down, unkempt, straggly red hair, greasy cut-off jean jacket, and pants, filthy hands and face. I apologized and said I'll get the fly out without pain because I know how to do it. I did, and his face twisted with rage. I thought I'd been decked at the least. I'd be decked at the least, and maybe attacked. In a minute, one of my male friends appeared. He saw what was happening, said, "You should never sit behind someone who's fly fishing." The guy didn't move. He growled. We scampered down the river as fast as we could. Story 7. I used to fish in the Golden Meadow canals near Raceland, Louisiana. This is an endless swamp teeming with all sorts of life. Gators, snakes, birds, etc. And people. We ran a small motor, a 25 HP Johnson. But all we could do is a fair clip. Far faster than a canoe or skiff. One day, we see up ahead of us a little man with a caribou standing pulling in a casting net. Next to him is a tree, high with a very thick swamp grass. We never came off the plain, and when we arrived at where he was gone. There were no channels, no little runoff ditches. He was just gone. This area had people who had never seen Interstate 20 miles away. They had yellow school buses that took the kids to school. It was amazing and surreal. Story 8. One year for my birthday, my boyfriend and I went camping deep in the boonies in the west desert of Utah, a little place called Conver Springs, about 15 miles down a dirt road after you drive about 60 miles down Highway 50, also known as the loneliest highway in America. It's close to the Nevada border, and there was not a speck of civilization for over 100 miles between Delta, Utah, and I think it's Elko, Nevada. Way off the beaten path. I chose this site because you can dig for fossil crinoids and horn coral, and it's public BLM land. There are 100-plus-year-old dilapidated shacks and other signs of brave people who long ago tried to homestead in this desolate area. So we hardly see any cars after we head down Highway 50. Don't see anyone else as he takes the dirt road to the spring. As we set up camp near the dilapidated cabins, it is getting dark. Suddenly, a big-ass white truck with several men in it, ranging in age, pull into the camp area and make a slow turn around like they were checking us out, and keep driving down the dirt road, without saying anything. Usually, it's polite to say howdy when you encounter other people in the boonies, but they didn't seem obviously dangerous or malicious. They were just absolutely creeped me out. But it was unsettling. We kept our heads on a swivel that night, and I didn't sleep well at all, picturing all the awful things that can happen when you encounter crazy people so far from any kind of help. We kept our handguns under our pillows just in case. We don't go into the desert without protection. You never know if you will encounter snakes or crazy people, and usually we do target practice when we are really far from civilization like that. Don't see the people again till the next day. I'm elbow deep in dirt as in a dry wash, looking for fossils. My boyfriend was 150 feet away at camp, reading a book. Suddenly, an old guy I recognized from the white pickup truck comes riding down the wash on a horse. He rode up almost silently because it was soft sand. I didn't hear him till he was like 15 feet away. He definitely snuck up on me, and I was basically alone, out of earshot from my partner. Luckily, I had my handgun holstered on my hip, which I'm sure he quickly noticed. He said a quick howdy and kept going on his horse. A few minutes later, my boyfriend came to check on me because the cowboy also startled him when he rode up silently, walking along with some of the other men on horses I didn't see. We left a few hours later, thankfully, and didn't see them again. It was only a quick one-night camping adventure. We didn't leave because of them, but we had planned another night there. I honestly would have reconsidered staying because I didn't feel safe. It was very unsettling. Glad we didn't see any more of those cowboys. Story 9. I lived in upper rural South Arkansas and wandered into the woods often as a child. I once ran into a neighbor kid. He lived about 12 miles away as the crow flies, filling in a very large, deep hole near my friend's house. She was there, staring him down and talking like she was in a trance. I froze. Somehow she got away. We were both like 5, and he was 10ish. He was rumored to have killed his brother and sister. He's gone now. Died in a shootout with police after killing his wife, who was our current governor's cousin. I think he wanted to question stuff he did while he was a truck driver, too. Story 10. Pyramid Lake in Nevada has always rewarded me with creepy, otherworldly experiences. It's a massive, high desert, ancient lake that has a mystical atmosphere. On one trip, my friend Katie took her truck with a cab off road to camp. We slept in the back of the truck cab, the kind with the slide windows, with a half moon overhead on the northwest side of the lake. I fell asleep fast and had the most realistic nightmare of my life. This is what happened. There I was in the back of the truck. The moon had shifted to the window I was sleeping by and was awakened in the dream by a rustling in the bush. Somehow the tailgate was down and the cab was open. A man appeared at the foot of the tailgate. His hair was matted and deadlocked, and he was clothed in thick scraps of fur, almost like a robe, and he had a thick beard and was totally unshaven. He was hunched over and dark with filth. His eyes bulged with madness. I was paralyzed in fear. He reached under his furs and pulled out a huge, dirty hunting knife. He started to furiously stab my feet and lower legs. That's when my friend shook me awake. I was screaming in my sleep. I was so relieved that it was just a nightmare. I looked out the window by my side of the bed, and the moon was in the same exact location as in my dream. I was filled with the sense that we were not alone and convinced my friend to stay up until the sunrise with me. It was such a surreal experience. I felt like I was being visited by a crazed madman who lived in the caves of the desert 100 or more years ago. That feeling of being watched stayed with me on the trip until we left. So there you go. Some very creepy, true stories of backwoods horror. Or mischief, I guess, in some cases. Hope you have enjoyed this video. If you did, maybe leave a like or a comment down below. And go check out another video, or 5. That's fine too. Anyway, thanks for listening and watching. We'll talk to you later. Bye.